The moment you trust too fast, you hand away power. Think about it. When someone enters your life with charm, warmth, confidence, and perfect words, what do you want to believe? That they are real, that they are different, that you are safe. But that instinct is exactly what makes people easy to control, because in real power dynamics, trust is never just emotional, it is strategic. The wrong person does not need your loyalty. He only needs your openness, your speed, your need to believe. And once you give that away, the balance changes. In this video, you'll see Machiavelli's hidden philosophy behind why intelligent people never trust easily. Not because they are broken, not because they are bitter, but because they understand human nature. And once you see what they see, you will never move through social hierarchy the same way again. Machiavelli wrote for a brutal world. A world of alliances, betrayals, court politics, hidden motives, and smiling enemies. Renaissance Italy was not ruled by innocence. It was ruled by calculation. Men spoke of virtue in public, then acted from fear, ambition, greed, and necessity in private. Machiavelli did not invent this darkness. He exposed it. In The Prince, he rejected fantasy. He focused on what he called the effectual truth, not what people should do, what they actually do. That is why his work still disturbs people, because it destroys comforting illusions. Modern society says trust is always noble, openness is always healthy, transparency is always strength, but that is only half the truth. The darker half is this: the more predictable you are, the easier you are to manage. The more available you are, the easier you are to use. The faster you trust, the less time you have to see clearly. Machiavelli understood something most people still refuse to accept. Human beings are not governed mainly by ideals, they are governed by incentives. Fear, advantage, reputation, desire, self-preservation. And once you understand that, trust stops being a moral reflex. It becomes a strategic decision. This is why smart people move differently. They do not hear nice words and relax. They do not feel chemistry and assume loyalty. They do not confuse access with safety. They watch first. They study patterns. They ask one question the masses never ask: what happens when this person has something to gain? That is the divide. The average person wants reassurance. The intelligent person wants evidence. The average person trusts the performance. The intelligent person studies the structure behind it. And this is exactly why most people never learn this. Because a person who understands dark psychology is harder to control. He is harder to guilt, harder to rush, harder to recruit emotionally, harder to manipulate through appearances. Machiavelli wrote that people are loyal while the need is distant, then change when the cost becomes real. That single insight explains failed friendships, broken alliances, office betrayal, romantic manipulation, and false loyalty in every era. Online literature. If you understand this, you are already seeing more clearly than most. You are starting to understand that trust is not a default setting, it is leverage. And the person who asks for it too soon often reveals more than he intends. But there's something even darker about this. Smart people do not simply distrust faster, they understand exactly how trust is weaponized. And that starts with the first principle: trust behavior under pressure, never words under comfort. This is where most people fail. They judge character in easy conditions. They listen to promises. They believe tone. They read warmth as loyalty, but comfort proves nothing. Anyone can sound loyal when nothing is at stake. Anyone can appear generous when the cost is low. Anyone can offer support when the moment demands nothing real. Machiavelli saw this clearly. He wrote that men are ungrateful, fickle, false, cowardly, and covetous. As long as success is easy, they seem yours. When danger comes close, they turn. Online literature. That is not poetry. That is diagnosis. And it explains why smart people are slow to trust. Because they know words are cheapest before consequences arrive. The human brain wants reassurance now. It wants closure now. It wants certainty now. So when someone says, "Trust me," the mind relaxes. That is the trap. Manipulation tactics work because language gives emotional relief before reality has been tested. The average person mistakes that relief for proof. The intelligent person does not. He waits. He watches what happens when pressure enters the room. This is the real test. What does the person do when protecting you becomes inconvenient? What does he do when fear appears? When status is on the line? When money is involved? When blame needs a target? When there is something real to lose? That is where human nature becomes visible. Consider a modern example. A man joins a new company. His manager is charismatic, supportive, confident. He says all the right things. "We're a family here. I take care of my people. You can trust me." The average employee feels safe. The strategic employee stays calm. He listens, but he does not conclude. Then pressure hits. A deadline fails. Senior leadership gets involved. Credit becomes scarce. Blame becomes useful. And suddenly the same manager changes. He distances himself. He protects his own image. He softens responsibility upward, then redirects it downward. Now the employee sees the truth. The promises were real only inside comfort. Once pressure arrived, self-interest took command. This is why smart people don't trust easily, not because they hate people, because they understand timing. A person's true structure appears when the environment gets expensive. Now, most people hear this and become cynical. That is still weakness. Blind trust is weakness. Blind trust is weakness. Blind distrust is also weakness. Why? Because both are automatic. Power begins when your judgment becomes disciplined. When you stop asking, "How do they feel about me?" and start asking, "How do they behave when conditions change?" That question alone will save you from years of confusion. And it leads to something deeper. Because observing pressure is not enough. You must also control the speed at which trust develops. Now, most people stop here, but that's why they fail. There's a second layer, and it is darker. Never let anyone else control the tempo of trust. This is frame control, and it matters more than most people understand. Whoever sets the pace often sets the meaning. If someone can rush the relationship, he can reduce your ability to evaluate him. Fast trust feels exciting. That is why it works. Fast intimacy, fast friendship, fast business alignment, fast emotional disclosure, fast certainty. But urgency is one of the oldest manipulation tactics in existence. Why? Because speed weakens scrutiny. Machiavelli understood that power belongs not only to the strong, but to the cunning. In The Prince, he said a ruler must know how to act as both lion and fox, strong enough to frighten wolves, clever enough to see traps. Early modern texts that matters here. The lion reacts to obvious threat. The fox detects hidden structure, and rushed trust is always hidden structure. A person says, "I feel like I've known you forever," or "You can tell me anything," or "If you trusted me, you wouldn't need proof," or "We need to move now. Listen carefully." Sometimes that is enthusiasm. Sometimes it is an attempt to collapse your timeline, because time reveals contradiction. Time exposes masks. Time forces consistency. Time tests intention. Time kills performance. And anyone who needs your trust before time can work is often asking you to skip the only process that could protect you. Look at how this plays out in business. A new partner appears. He is polished. He mirrors your values. He praises your intelligence. He talks about rare opportunities and fast decisions. The average person feels chosen. The intelligent person slows down. He asks questions. He checks details. He watches for irritation. And that irritation matters because trustworthy people respect process. Manipulative people resent it. This is where the hidden power struggle becomes visible. The manipulator wants speed because speed favors emotion. You want time because time favors truth. That is why delay is powerful. Delay keeps your frame intact. It denies immediate access. It keeps your interior protected. It forces the other person to remain observable longer. Now, most people mistake patience for passivity. That is a serious. Strategic delay is not passive. It is dominance without noise. It says, without saying, you do not get access to me on demand. You do not set my pace. You do not define caution as weakness. If you're still watching, you're already ahead of most people, because this makes weak minds uncomfortable. Weak minds want immediate certainty. Strong minds can tolerate ambiguity while they gather data, and this applies everywhere. Dating, friendship, business, family, politics. Anyone who tries to shame your caution is giving you information. Anyone who treats your boundaries like an insult is showing you what he wanted access to. Everything I just told you, that was still only the surface level, because slowing trust protects you from one danger, but the next principle protects you from something deeper. It protects you from becoming readable, and once that happens, the game changes completely. The next principle is where it gets truly dangerous. Never become fully readable. This is where most people lose their position. They think trust means full exposure. They think honesty means showing everything. Every thought, every wound, every motive, every reaction. That is not wisdom. That is surrender disguised as virtue. Machiavelli understood the power of appearance. He wrote that everyone sees what you appear to be, but few know what you are. Early modern texts, that line reaches far beyond politics. It reveals a law of social dominance. Most people do not interact with your essence. They interact with your presentation, your timing, your emotional leakage, your visible patterns. So the moment you become fully readable, you become easier to control. Your triggers become visible. Your insecurities become available. Your needs become usable. Your hopes become leverage. Now, most people think concealment is dishonesty. But here's where it gets dark. In a manipulative world, strategic opacity is self-defense. Not lying, not posturing, not fake mystery. Discipline. That means you do not reveal everything just because someone asks. You do not explain yourself just because someone pressures you. You do not hand over your inner map before loyalty has been earned. Look at the workplace. Weak people reveal frustration too early. They announce ambition too openly. They overshare doubts. They explain emotions to people who collect information like weapons. Then they are shocked when office politics turns against them. The strong person moves differently. He watches the climate first. He learns who talks too much, who flatters upward, who leaks private conversations, who moralizes in public but competes in private. Then he reveals selectively, not because he is fake, because he understands power dynamics. The same is true in relationships. Weak people open every door immediately. They call it vulnerability. Sometimes it creates intimacy. Often it creates asymmetry. The other person learns exactly how to calm them, trigger them, guilt them, or regain control during conflict. The stronger person reveals in layers. He lets consistency earn access. He does not confuse confession with connection. He does not mistake intensity for safety. And in conflict, this becomes even more important. Weak people over-explain. They defend their image. They answer every accusation. They try to be understood by people who are not listening in good faith. Powerful people do something else. They state. They do not spill. They answer what matters. Then they stop. Because once someone learns that pressure makes you disclose more, he has found a method to control your state. And this is where you need to be careful. Some people hear this principle and become theatrical, cold on purpose, silent for effect, artificially mysterious. That is not strength. That is insecurity trying to look dangerous. Real opacity is calm. It is measured, it is clean, it is controlled. It means you decide what deserves visibility. It means you do not make yourself easy to decode. Weak people need immediate recognition. Powerful people can wait. And if you understand this, you already see what most never will. Trust and readability are connected. The more easily people can read you, the more easily they can move you. But knowing these principles one by one is not enough. You need to see how they work together, because the final law is the most powerful. And once you understand it, there is no going back. Do not depend on trust alone. Build conditions where betrayal becomes expensive. This is the forbidden layer. Most people move through life romantically. They look for good people, loyal people, safe people, pure people. That sounds noble, but it is not strategic. Machiavelli's deeper philosophy is colder. Character matters, but incentives rule. That is why smart people do not trust easily. They know that even decent people can change under pressure. Fear changes people. Opportunity changes people. Envy changes people. Status pressure changes people. Self-preservation changes people. So intelligent people do not build safety on personality alone. They build structure. This is the difference between fantasy and power. In business, it means roles are clear, information is layered, access is earned. Critical knowledge is not placed in one untested set of hands. In personal life, it means your emotional stability does not depend entirely on one person. Your future does not rest on one promise. Your reputation is not exposed by one careless confidant. This is not paranoia. It is strategic thinking. Take two men. The first man trusts on instinct. He gives access quickly. He shares the full vision. He assumes enthusiasm means loyalty. He believes feeling aligned means being aligned. When betrayal comes, he calls it shocking. The second man is more dangerous. He still builds relationships. He still rewards loyalty. But he thinks structurally. He limits damage. He protects leverage. He never lets one untested person become a single point of failure. If betrayal comes, it hurts less because he prepared for reality. That is real power. And here is the darkest part. Blind trust does not only risk disappointment, it creates dependence. The moment your position depends on someone staying loyal, you are already weaker than you think. Because now your peace depends on their choices. Your confidence depends on their stability. Your future depends on their restraint. That is hidden subordination, and it is everywhere. This is why the final stage of Machiavellian thinking is not trust no one. That is too crude. The real goal is better. Trust in measured doses, verify slowly, build wisely, and remain difficult to destroy. Machiavelli never said these exact words, but his philosophy points to them. Do not ask only, can I trust this person? Ask, if this person changes tomorrow, how exposed am I? That question returns power to your hands. And here is what Machiavelli never explicitly wrote but clearly understood. The strongest man is not the one who trusts nobody. It is the one who can trust carefully without ever becoming ruinable. First, you stop trusting words spoken in easy conditions. You study behavior under pressure. Second, you stop letting other people set the pace of access. You slow things down. Third, you stop becoming fully readable. You reveal in layers. Fourth, you stop relying on goodwill alone. You build structure. That is the system. This is not bitterness. It is clarity, not fear, discipline, not emotional withdrawal, strategic control. Now, some people will say this is manipulation, but power does not care about labels. The world already runs on influence, on appearances, on pressure, on advantage, on hidden incentives. Refusing to understand that does not make you pure. It makes you usable. That is why so many people stay trapped. They want sincerity to protect them. They want honesty to guarantee fairness. They want warmth to mean safety. But human nature does not obey those fantasies. Machiavelli understood that people judge by appearances, move by necessity, and change when the cost becomes real. Early modern texts, online literature, that is why intelligent people move differently. They do not trust to end uncertainty. They do not open up to avoid loneliness. They do not hand out access because someone feels convincing. They watch, they measure, they test. And when loyalty proves itself over time, they trust more deeply than naive people ever can. Because their trust is real, not fantasy, not projection, not emotional hunger. Verified reality. The world is divided into players and pieces. Which one will you be? Here is how to apply this today. First, stop over-explaining. When someone challenges you, answer clearly. Then stop. Do not spill your entire internal world just because pressure appeared. Second, slow new relationships down. Business, romance, friendship, partnerships, do not let energy decide pace. Let time do its work. Third, trust in layers. Give small access first. Watch what happens, then increase only when consistency is proven. Fourth, protect leverage. Do not put your emotional stability, reputation, income, or private information into one person's hands too early. Fifth, study people under stress. Watch how they behave when plans fail, when they are contradicted, when there is less to gain, when helping you costs them something, when nobody is watching. That is where the truth lives. You now understand something most people never will. Trust is not the beginning. It is the reward. And once you see that, manipulation tactics lose much of their force, because they depend on one thing above all else: your willingness to conclude too soon. So here is the real transformation. Smart people do not trust easily, not because they are damaged, but because they understand power dynamics. They understand dark psychology. They understand social hierarchy. They understand social hierarchy. They understand that human nature changes under pressure. They know that words are cheap, appearances are crafted, and trust given too early becomes leverage against the one who gives it. Most people will hear this and change nothing. They will keep oversharing. Keep trusting urgency. Keep mistaking charm for character. Keep handing access to people who have not earned it. That is why they stay powerless. But if this resonates with the part of you that is tired of performing for approval, tired of being easy to read, tired of learning every lesson through betrayal, then you already know what to do. Subscribe, because this is not content for the naive. This is for those who want to understand Machiavelli, dark psychology, frame control, social dominance, strategic thinking, stoicism, the 48 laws of power, and the hidden rules that shape human behavior beneath the surface. The choice is yours. But remember, ignorance is not bliss. It is slavery.